Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Let's continue with our series. In this episode, we are going to create our product microservice using CDK. So far, we have covered our user service with the help of Serverless framework, and we saw how we have created all the endpoints and how we have covered the communications between the database and the migrations and how our API is interacting with the help of the Lambda functions. Our user service is needed some data which belongs to the product service, right? So this is not the complicated things which is we need the product service some different way. The user service totally dependent on product service. That is not the thing. It is going to be like, as I told you in the microservice way, each and every service have their own isolated sandbox where each and every service will be going to be independently, it will be perform their own operations. But somehow some of the data which belongs to other service, they're going to be communicate with the help of the internal communications or through the message broker. But the certain data exactly we are just keeping reference to that specific service is going to be needed eventually, right? In certain cases, the product services, it's you cannot say like it's dependent totally, but some of the product information which we are going to utilize in the user service. So let's create the product microservice with the help of CDK. But before create the service, I just want to make you understand how the CDK is real life, it is working. Right before create our product microservice using CDK, let's understand what we did for our user microservice. Our user microservice we have created with the help of the serverless framework, right? Where we are shipping our Lambda function as a kind of microservice, right? And we are writing a couple of codes which is called infrastructure as a code with the help of serverless.yaml file. At the end of it is generating a file which is called cloud permission template. And with the help of the cloud permission template, it is deploying all the required changes, whatever the requested changes for infrastructure side and our function or application logic side, everything is deployed on the AWS account, right? And you can see the serverless framework, if you go to the source code in this YAML file, we have just added our provider and runtime and staging and HTTP API, all those things we have added right here. And as a part of like standard process, we are only adding the functions informations, right? Where what kind of functions or what are the endpoints it will going to be happen right here, all right? And we have added the plugins. So you can see like here we are not adding any kind of the API gateway informations, right? Which is exposing our endpoints for our user microservice with the help of API gateway that is taken care by the serverless framework itself. So we no need to do that, right? Additional some of the configurations we can add in order to customize our API gateway informations. So that is we can do, but you can see here there's nothing we have added, and that is handled by the serverless framework itself, right? So only we need to take care of the functions and whatever the resources we are granting for these functions, and that is only we need to tackle it right here, okay? But in this case, you can see in the CDK way, so CDK is giving a little bit more flexibility in terms of it is using some different mechanism where it is giving you more scope of like getting into the infrastructure. You can do much more stuff and you can customize all this infrastructure stuff, maybe VPC, API gateway, and the functions calls, all right? And all the required infrastructure in terms of like maybe your ST bucket or maybe DynamoDB and all those things. It is giving tons of resources which is you can go deeper and you can customize it accordingly as per your requirement. CDK is following two aspects. One is the infrastructure side and another is like application logic side, right? So while we are just creating our CDK application, then we need to add our code to infrastructure side, whatever infrastructure needs for our this specific microservice, that is we need to add. And another thing, we just need to add the functions, right? Hooking up of the function, it is a little bit different. You can see here hooking up of functions like all the Lambda functions hook up with this endpoint. We just need to add this inside the functions, and you can just add simply the routes, sign up, login, verify whatever it is exactly we are adding right here. That's very simple. But in the CDK way, it is a little bit different, right? So now let's understand how this whole pipeline is working. So first we are just creating our CDK application, and it is giving two sides in terms of like first infrastructure as a code and another is like Lambda functions where you can add. And once you are doing the CDK synth, then it is generating a kind of cloud permission template just we did for our serverless framework. And end of the day, while you are doing the CDK deploy, then it is shipping the whole source code with the help of the ES build, because this is generating on the TypeScript, and you have a flexibility to write your code in the TypeScript and maybe ES6 also. In our case, we have already decided to go with the TypeScript because that's a kind of convenient thing for these days. And once we deploy the things, because these are the codes are written on this on TypeScript, right? So somehow we need to transpile all this code in order to execute on our AWS account, right there. So and that's why the CDK is using behind the scene the ES build to pack all this code and ship to this AWS account. So with the help of the access key, while we are deploying this CDK, then it is gaining the access from the AWS access key, where we need to configure in our local machine, or maybe we can use the AWS profile as well as, right? With the help of that, it is shipping the whole thing to the AWS account, and AWS account is just creating the cloud permission template based on this specific template declaration, right? And eventually it is just deploying all these things as a stack, right? So it depends like how many stacks you are just creating. Maybe one of like API gateway stack, another one is like maybe it's database stack, and maybe bucket or something else. Whatever this stack we are just adding right here, right? All this stack, it will be listed out right here with the help of cloud permission template. Okay. Then cloud permission is building all the stack, and once it is deployed, then you can see each and every stack has their own property. In our case, we are going to deploy our product microservice, which is going to having, at least initially, one is the CDK metadata, another one is like product API gateway, and third one is the product service. So you might have thinking like, why I'm just coming from the bottom side? Because this is the place where it is having like all the information related to the CDK, which version of the CDK is being used, and what are the informations exactly it's necessary to deploy the whole thing. It is going to be added right here in the CDK metadata, right? And product API gateway, which is going to be expose our endpoints to the outside world, all right, with the help of the API gateway, which is we are going to create, and where our endpoints is going to be worked, all right. And finally, this comes to product service. It's a kind of service layer, or maybe you can say it's a kind of Lambda functions, which is going to handle all the application's business logic right here. Cool. So I guess you already understood like how the CDK things are working with the help of this simple diagram. All right, so now this is the time where we will create our product microservice. So a couple of dependencies are needed to create the product microservice with the help of CDK. So first thing is the AWS CLI. You can go ahead and download the AWS CLI from here in this page. Depends on your operating system, you can install it. All right, all this information are right here. Already I have explained in one of the episodes how to install this AWS CLI. Second one is we need to install our CDK. Just go ahead and copy this one, and here you can install it. In my case, I'm gonna install this way. So this is my CDK version. Your version may be vary when you are watching this video tutorial, depends on the available versions. You can get the version number. Okay, cool. Now this CDK is done. Now what we need to do, we need to bootstrap our CDK, right? But in that case, we need to have a kind of AWS account and region also. First, we are going to create one user here. So at least we can perform all the operations on behalf of that user, right? So I have already removed whatever the user I have created for our previous episodes. So I'm going to create one user right here. But before that, I'm going to create one group here. Okay. So let's say, as an example, this group name is going to be CDK. And let's hit the create group button. All right. So our group is created right here. Click to users and click on the add users here. And we can put our username. This is going to be like CDK local. And we don't want the console access, just to click on next. Now we can add to the group, which is maybe this one, right? And click on next. And you can go ahead and put some text also, but that is optional. Let's create the user, right? Our user is created right now. Cool. Now go to the groups, right? Here, user groups. And there's no any users. Yeah, one user is there. Now click on the CDK local, dev local, this group name. Now you can see in the group we have one user, but we need to provide the permissions, right? So click on the permissions and click on add permissions. Click attach policies. and we are going to provide the administrator access for a while, right? Admin, yeah, this one is administrator access. Go ahead and add permission. It is not necessary to have the administrator access, but we can customize these specific rules, depends on the IAM user. So that is, I don't want to make it too complicated in the very first stage, because in the later stage of this series, we are going to deep dive on the infrastructure side also, where I'm going to show you how we can assign some kind of rules and we can assign specific permissions and policies. So at least your account is safe and you can perform certain tasks which is going to be applied for specific operations. That is, we are going to cover it. All right, so now our user group is ready with the permission, and you can see in the users also, whatever the users exactly assigned to this group, they can access this specific policy. All right, now cool. Let's go to the user section, go to the security credential, and if you can see here, we have an access key section. We don't have any access key, right? So we need to generate one access key for this user. So click on the create access key. Now these are the options are available where you can assign this access key stuff. Definitely this UI, it will be coming from the new version of the AWS UI. And certainly we just go with this command line interface because we don't need all these permissions. So click on the command line interface CLI. Cool. And it is giving some kind of information, also alternative recommendations. That is, we can do it in maybe, but I'm happy with this. All right, let's go with this and click on I understand above recommendations and click on next. Cool. And description value tag, you can put some kind of tag. As an example, CDK local access. Right, create access key. All right, so this is our access key. Let's copy this access key and go to our terminal. I'm gonna bring this terminal to this window. All right, so now we're going to do our configuration stuff. Already I have installed my AWS CLI, so let's configure this one. All right, so this is my new key, and let's go to click on the show secret, click on this one, and now go over here and paste the secret right here. Right, and my default region is EU Central, that is nearest to me. And default format is JSON. That's cool, because if you are putting on YAML, then definitely some of the output you are not getting in the correct way. So let it be JSON, right? So let's try to download this CSV for further use. Now our IAM configuration stuff is done, and we have added our configuration also here in our CLI. So if you go here in the cloud permission section, click on the cloud permission section. Now you can see nothing is there, right? It's totally empty. All right, let's go to create our project. So let's check it out. What are the things are available inside our directory? So here, yeah, we have our user service, and this is another subsidiary directory. So we need to create our product service right here. So let's create a directory here, just like a user service in the same way. Right, let's click on. Let's create our project. We're going to click on directory. Right? So now you can see how to direct our users. Let's switch to first. So let's create our project here. App, language is TypeScript. So we are going to create our project, CDK init app, language equal to TypeScript. So we are going to use language as a TypeScript. All right, let's hit the enter. These are the commands we are going to use throughout of the project. So let's try to open the project first. Perfect. So now our project is created. Let's understand what exactly the project structure and the files are saying here. So this is our tsconfig file as usual, just like in a simple Node project where we are adding the tsconfig file in order to support the TypeScript. All right, this is nothing special. And this is our package.json file where all the dependencies, required dependencies installed by our CDK project, right? And this is our CDK.json file where this is our entry of the specific project where it will be residing right here in the bin, right? And you can see it is referring to that specific stack, which is called product service stack. And this is referring from the lib directory, right? If you can see here, lib inside this product service stack, and you can see this is our infrastructure stack where we will be adding all the codes right here, right? And you can add multiple stack also right here inside the lib, right? Cool. Now, we don't have a kind of another directory where we will be putting our application logic. If you can see in this diagram, you can see here, there are two sides, right? One is the infrastructure, one is the application logic, right? The infrastructure side, this lib directory, right? Where we will be putting all the infrastructure as a code here, but we need to have another directory where we will be putting our application logic. So let's create one directory which is called src, right? And inside the src we are going to create one file. This is called index. Here our Lambda handler function will go, and we'll be creating a couple of more folders in order to handle our application logic, right? That is the thing we are going to do. So now let's go to this here in the product service stack, and we'll be add a couple of codes right here and a couple of files here in order to work with our microservice. So here inside the product service stack, we'll be adding a couple of more codes in order to create our microservice. Let's try to install a couple of more dependencies in order to work with our microservice. So I'm gonna drop this node module because I'm not gonna use this npm package. So I'm gonna use yarn. So in your case, you can use either yarn or npm. It's apart from your choice. So first of all, I'm gonna add one library that is called yarn add types add AWS lambda.dev, this because that is needed for our Lambda functions, right? Let's install this one first. Right, here in the package.json file, you can see this is installed, all right? So we are going to use the TS Node and TypeScript latest version. So let's try to install that. This is now latest, like 4.9.4, and this is perfect. Okay, cool. Now let's go here in the product service stack, and we're going to add a couple of lines of code. Let's remove this commented out codes from here. All right, so first we need to create our API gateway. All right, API gateway. Because in the serverless framework, API gateway by default it is creating by our serverless framework. But for the CDK, you need to create your own API gateway in order to adding all the Lambda functions and RESTful API endpoints. So that is what we need to do. Okay. So in that case, let's create a couple of files. First file we are going to create that is called. Let's add some code one by one. First, we are going to add some code in the service stack, and then we are going to add some code in the API gateway. Then we'll be implementing all this, both this stack in the product service stack. This is our main stack, right? Let's add some code quickly into the service stack. Then I'm gonna make you understand what we did here. All right, so what we did here, we have created one class that is called service stack, that is extend from construct. And while we are creating this class, you can see we need to provide a scope of the specific things that is called, while we are just creating this application, we will provide this scope again, it's a kind of construct, right? And we are providing that specific resources ID as well as a kind of simple string. As an example, this is going to be our product service or something else. And this is the props, which is a kind of the custom interface we have created in order to pass the resources where we'll be having access of the resources. As an example, the bucket or DynamoDB table or maybe SQS queue or something. That is, we will going to pass it right here in this interface, right, as a kind of props. Cool. And right after this, we have created one nodejs function, which is going to be our Lambda function. It has a certain property, which is called nodejs function props, right? That is exactly, it's coming from our AWS CDK leaf, right? And here, certain things we need to mention. What are the external modules we are going to use, because we are going to use AWS SDK here. And we need to provide the environment variables. As an example, we are just simply providing our bucket name, right? And what is the runtime we are going to use for this nodejs function? Certainly, it's going to be nodejs, but which version exactly we are going to use, that is we need to mention right here, right? So if you click on the runtime, here you can see whole bunch of stuff. It is there, like it's in every language and what are the version exactly it has. So we are going to use this 16. This is the compatible version. Maybe we can use 18 also in future. Let's go with the 16 here. And this is the function props which is going to need it for create our function. And this nodejs function is simply creating a new nodejs functions, which is called product lambda. It's a name. And the entry file will be that specific file which is we have created inside the source directory, right? That is the file name, right? And we are using join, so at least we can access that specific file inside the source directory, right? And additionally, we are passing to that specific function this nodejs the function props. So it is simply clear. It's a kind of service tag, which is we have created our Lambda function. You can say additionally it's a Lambda function stack we are going to create with the help of the API gateway. So now first step is done. Now secondly, we are going to create our API gateway right here. All right. So why API gateway is needed? All right. So in order to access all the RESTful API endpoints, we need to have some kind of mechanism which is going to be exposed to outside world, right? Already I have explained in our user service episodes what exactly API gateway it is and how we are exposing this stuff. So the same way we are going to do here. So let's add some code quickly, then I will make you understand the same way we did for our service tag. All right, so what we did here, first we have created one class that is called API Gateway Stack, right? And API Gateway Stack has a constructor the same way we have the scope and ID and the props, that specific resources, whatever the resources it is needed for this API Gateway Stack, that is we have passed in here in this interface. You can see this product service is a kind of I function that is belongs from our AWS CDK lib. And this is where we are passing this service tag function right here, okay? And after that, we are adding one function that is called add resources, where we are creating our API gateway first, which is called Lambda REST API. And we are putting the name of that specific REST API, which is exactly the similar, just like in the service name, which is we are providing right here. Okay. And it has the handler. Handler is the specific function that is coming from here in the product service, right? And another thing is like, we are just setting up proxy false for a while. And after this API gateway created, we are adding the API gateway, the endpoints that is called the products and the category and the deals. So we'll be moving all these codes to a kind of helper function where we'll be simply putting these resources and whatever the methods are needed. That is, it will be created efficiently. That is will be moving in upcoming episode. But I just wanna make you understand how this endpoints is going to be work, right? As an example, we have the products, the API, all right, that the product routes, that is going to be initial. This is going to be something like this, the product, right? And where will be product post and get, that is going to be here as a get. And let's try to make it like this way. Get and post product, post product, where we'll be getting, like we'll be creating our products and we'll be getting our products. This is going to be like the all products and create one single product, right? And what if we need to offer the single product, or maybe we need to get that specific product by ID or delete the ID, something like that, then how we will do that? That is, we can do like this, product and ID. This is going to be ID. So now you can see this is our product, which is we have added right here, and this is the additional route which is we have added right here. It's a kind of get, put and delete, right? And these are 1, 2 and 3. This is get, put and delete. These are the things we have added accordingly. So in the serverless framework, it is very simple. Like you just add it into the function, then you can add it correctly. But here you need to create everything just like create the API gateway, and the add the resources, whatever resources exactly needed. Cool. Now let's go to our main stack where we'll be creating everything, right? So our API gateway stack is ready and our service stack is also ready. Okay. Then go to the product service here. And here we will do a couple of things. That is, first, like const, this we'll be getting this new service stack, and where we will be putting like this, because if you go to see here in the service stack, there's three things is needed, right? First thing, it's going to be scope and ID, and third one is the props, right? So in that case, let's try to assign as a this, because this scope we are going to pass it right here in the service stack. And second things, we are going to provide a name. In this case, our service name is going to be like product service. And third one is like our props parameter. As an example of bucket, whatever we are created the bucket right here in the main stack. And let's say here we are creating one bucket, S3 bucket, and that S3 bucket we are going to pass it here. So that is the way the service stack will be reaching these additional environment variables or resources access from here. Okay, so this time we're not going to pass anything right here, bucket, just like keep it empty. But once we have created this one, then something we need to get it from there, right? So that is we need to get, that is called product service, right? Because if you go here, you can see here we have already provided somewhere. If you go here, yeah, this one, this product service, publicly we are exposing this one, right? And this is assigning here as soon as we are creating this nodejs function, right? That is what we did here. All right, so now we need to create our API gateway stack. This is going to be new API gateway stack, right? Which is we have created here, this one. And again, the same similar way, we need to pass this scope, this. And secondly, we need to provide a kind of name for ID, that's to signify that this is our stack. So let's provide a name which is called product gateway, right? And in addition, we need to provide some kind of props, right? The way we are just to try to provide the bucket here, the same way we need to provide the name, that's called a product service, because that is the specific function we are exposing with the help of our API gateway. Cool. Now we can see this is pretty clear, right? So we have our main stack, we have created our API gateway, and if you go to API gateway is creating our resources. That resources belongs to some function that is called product service function. If you go here in the product service function here, you can see this is the specific product service function along with like whatever the requirement we have added here, and it is pointed to that specific index.ts file. Cool. Now our infrastructure side is done. Now let's go to the source file here in the index.ts. We will just try to add a couple of codes right here in order to test it and deploy it, whether it is working or not, just to test it out. Cool. Here we will just add some code quickly, and I will make you understand what exactly we did here. Perfect. So what we did here, we have added this AWS Lambda. You might have remember on the time of like initialize of this project, right after that, we have just installed this one, right? AWS Lambda. So that is exactly needed as a kind of dev dependency in order to use right here in the Lambda function. And these are the things we are being used in the Lambda function. The event type is a kind of API gateway event, and context is a kind of the context, which is Lambda context. And this API gateway proxy result, which is exactly returning some kind of the status code and body and some headers. We are not putting any headers for a while, but certainly we are going to deep dive on this handler, because this is our entry file of this whole application, where we'll be segregate our request and path parameters and everything as we did our user service. Now you can see this is the Lambda function which is being used here in the service stack right here. And as soon as we are executing all these endpoints, then it will be going to hit this endpoint and it will respond accordingly. So this is our one kind of entry point of this whole microservice. Perfect. So we have added some code to our Lambda handler here. And already we have added some code to our infrastructure side in order to create the required infrastructure to execute this whole microservice, right? And this is the time where we will be creating or deploying our whole microservice. So at least we can see the required infrastructure and the application source code is deployed correctly or not, right? To do so, we need to bootstrap our application first. That is going to be like CDK bootstrap. So right before deployment, the bootstrap is necessary because CDK itself need a kind of stack in order to keep tracking of all the deployment process of the CDK. So that's why we are doing the CDK bootstrap. And as you can see, as soon as we are doing the CDK bootstrap, it is needed the Docker desktop also. So make sure you have installed the Docker desktop, or maybe you can directly install Docker to your machine with the help of CLI or some other tools. So you can go ahead to dockerhub.com and install this Docker desktop for your machine, right? And after that, you just initialize. Once this is installed, then do the CDK bootstrap. Now you can see our bootstrap is done, and this is perfectly fine. And if you go to here in the cloud permission template, let's refresh this one, then you can see this is the CDK toolkit it is created, right? Which is going to handle all the deployment process for our CDK. Let's go here in the application side. Let's clean up this one, and we are going to do a CDK synth. Yeah, it is generating the whole bunch of template, like whatever the cloud permission template is going to deploy. And that is, you can see right here, it is generating this one, right? And additionally, you can see this is one more other directory is created that is called CDK out. If you can extend the whole directory, then you can see this is the assets, whatever assets we have created right here. It is in JavaScript format, and all the manifest file, product service tag, and a whole bunch of like whatever the activities are going on right here, everything is created right there, right? And this is our the cloud permission template, which is going to deploy in our AWS account. Cool. Now let's do CDK deploy verbose stress, right? So verbose stress is simply like giving up the logs of whatever the deployment process is happening. That is, it will give you back. And as soon as we are deploying this stuff, then it will give you a whole list of like IAM statement changes, whatever the statement changes it is done for your account or this project, which function having the what are the rules are granted. That is, you can see right here, right? Now it is asking, do you wish to deploy these changes? I'm gonna say yes. As soon as I said yes, then you can see this deployment progress has been started here, right? Perfect. So now you can see our deployment is done, right? Whole bunch of log, you got it right here, and it is giving a whole bunch of log what are the process exactly just went through. And finally, it is saying like this is done, all right? We created, completed, and this is our URL. If you click right here, then all right. So now you can see it is opening right here, and it is saying missing authentication token because this is not the proper endpoint. So let's put to the product. And as soon as we are putting the product, can you see we are getting the response from the product, and we are not providing any kind of the parameter. That's why it is saying null. And if you provide any kind of parameters, as an example, I'm gonna say product ID equal to 12, right? Then it is gonna say like product ID 12, and some kind of object is coming right here. Cool. So this is how the endpoints are working, all right? And this is for the product, and you can see the same thing for our category, right? This is the category, and same thing for our deals. This is for deals. Now let's have a look on the here in the cloud permission stack. Now you can see this is the cloud permission stack, right? This is our product stack, but this name, where exactly it is coming from? If you go to the source code, and if you can click here and inside the bin product service, you can see this is the same exact name which is coming, right? Product service stack. This is exact name, it is coming right here. And if you click on here, then you can see a whole bunch of the product information. Click on the resources section, then you can see the same way the product service, product API gateway, and CDK metadata. If you have remember in this diagram, like what we have explained in terms of like in the stack description, and you can see the CDK metadata, product API gateway, and product service. These are the three things it is coming right here, right? The CDK metadata, where all the CDK informations, whatever the things or changes, version number, or all this metadata information is coming right here. And this is the API gateway where we have used for our product API gateway, where the Lambda functions are exposing or endpoints are exposing. That is the product API gateway. This is our product Lambda function. The exact same name we have added right here, right? If you go here, you can see this is the product Lambda, right? Cool. Now let's go to API gateway and let's have a look how exactly this look like in the product service. Click on the product service. And here in the resources section, if you click here, then it will show like in the category. Category can have the get and post method, and it can have ID as well as a parameter, right? And where we'll be having delete, get, and put, right? And deals also having the same, right? Delete, get, put, and product also having the same. So these are the structure exactly this coming from this file here. Here, this one, right? This product and category and deals. Now our product service is having all the initial endpoints. So as you can see here in this cloud permission template, this is right now it is live, right? But we don't want to keep this one. As an example, we just want to delete this stack from here. You can go ahead and delete from here as well as, but that's not going to be convenient because we have created this stack from our infrastructure as a code, right? Let's go ahead in the source code here and simply just type the CDK destroy, right? And you can put like the purpose. So it will be delete the whole stack from directly from your terminal, like, and it is asking like, would you like to delete this? And I'm gonna say yes, delete this one, right? And as soon as this is executed, if you refresh this, and delete is in progress right now, right? And once this is going to be deleted, then it will be removed from there. And make sure you're just keeping this toolkit, the CDK toolkit stack, if you wish to follow this tutorial series. Or maybe you can remove it also, but make sure if you're removing this one, and there inside this the S3 bucket here, right? You need to delete that specific bucket as well as, which is going to be like this one, right? That is, you need to delete from there as well as. So in my case, I'm gonna keep it here because I am working something else also. And in your case, then you can just do accordingly whatever exactly it's your needs. Right now you can see only the CDK toolkit is there, and my whole stack is gone right now. Cool. Now I hope you got a kind of clear understanding how we can create our microservice with the help of CDK, right? So we have added all these layers like API gateway, our services, and additionally we have hooked up our application side like application endpoint also here. Perfect. So this is all for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to focus on the application business logic, where we'll be creating a couple of bunch of directories right here and a couple of files here, where we'll be take care of all these endpoints, whatever endpoints we have added here, all these endpoints we are going to serve it from there. I hope you like this video tutorial. If you really like this video tutorial, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed my channel, subscribe it right now, because there are a lot of useful content I'm gonna put throughout of this series. And I'll be happy to see you in the upcoming episodes. Thank you.